My name is Pat Hamilton, and this is Hamilton Handmade. My wife and I love LPs. We love records so much that we might be borderline hipsters. I enjoy getting up early in the morning, grabbing a cup of coffee. This is usually right about time that my daughter wakes up. She's a little bit over 6 months old. I grab my cup of coffee, we sit on our chair, and we listen to one record after another. It's my way of introducing her to new music and keeping the tradition of records alive. So there are many records that we have that are kept in a record container up under our record player, and then there are also a chunk of records that we would love to display. We have this awesome picture framed up in our living room right by our record player that's the state of Georgia with all of the musicians from across the state that made it big listed within the state outlines. I think that it would be awesome to be able to frame up this picture with all of our favorite LPs. Now, I don't want to go too crazy, just kind of want a few up there on display and be able to fill out the wall almost mural-like. So today, I'm going to show you how to make record shelves. I start out by measuring off my lumber. I already have determined that I want 2 short shelves on the side of our framed picture and 1 long shelf under the picture. The length of these boards can easily be adjusted to fit your needs. I then make these cuts using my miter saw. Now that we have our pieces cut down to size, I'm going to rip these on the table saw. I'm going to make sure that they are all the same width before I go any further. Once all these pieces are the same width, I'm gonna lower my blade down below the top of the wood. I'm gonna rip these through all of the boards, then I'm gonna flip the board and then rip it through again. By doing this, I basically cut a cube all the way through these strips, making a right angle for my shelves. This way I can slide in a record and it will hold it in place. Now that all of these pieces are cut down, I have a rabbet cut through, basically a slot for my records. Now I can begin drilling in my pilot holes so that I can hang these shelves. Going to use my speed square to make sure that I'm even on both sides. I'm going to make a mark, and then I'm going to use that mark as reference on my drill press. Using the drill press, I'm going to utilize a countersink bit. That way, when I drive in the screws, they will sink below the face of my shelving. The lumber that I used is rough sawn heart of pine. I decided to sand these down just a bit, but not too much, as it was important to me to keep a rustic and authentic look. Now our pieces are cut down, they have pilot holes drilled in them, they are sanded down, and it's ready to hang on the wall. I've went ahead and driven in some screws into those pilot holes. That way it gives me just a little point on the back end. My hope is that when I line it up, I can just push those into the wall, and then it will give me a little indention in the drywall so I know exactly where to drill in some holes to put in my drywall anchors. Now I'm gonna start with one of these smaller pieces, and I'm gonna line that up right with the bottom of this picture that I have here. This is actually gonna be my center piece, and then I'm gonna put the larger one down at the bottom below the picture, and then the other one above it. I think that by placing the center one, I could work off of that a little bit better and ensure that it works with the picture that's already hung. I start up by lining up my middle shelf, leveling it, and then pressing it in to get an accurate indention into the drywall. Using the indentions from my screws, I drill out a hole and tap in a drywall anchor. Then I move on to the other side. Once I went into the wall, I realized that I got extremely lucky and hit right into a stud. Folks, this never happens. I wasn't looking for a stud. I was already down with just adding in some drywall anchors. But lo and behold, there was a stud right in my way. So I went ahead and ditched the anchor for that side and just drilled directly into the stud. That way I could sink a screw into it. We're not adding that much weight to these shelves, but it's always nice to add the extra protection. After this great discovery, I lined up that beast and drove in one screw into an anchor and then the other into a stud. Now that my middle shelf is complete, I move on to the bottom shelf, using a record sleeve to determine my height and using a long level to line up the side with the existing shelf. I now repeat the steps from my first shelf. I tried to get some decent shots, but my big old hairy elbow decided to be the star during this portion. Now for the last shelf, I determined the height based on the records from the shelf below, and here's a feature from the co-star of my video, my big old neck. I followed the same steps as before to bring everything together. I am super stoked about the way that this turned out. I think that it's gorgeous and a great addition in our home. Can't wait to wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, grab my daughter, and listen to a record. We'll grab a record right off of one of these shelves where it will be displayed for all to see. We'll be able to play it right here on our record player. Overall, this was a pretty easy project, and I'm very pleased with the way that it turned out. I'd love to hear what you thought of this project. Be sure to like this video and comment down below to let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss another Hamilton Handmade project. My name is Pat Hamilton, and this was Hamilton Handmade.